Salutations, everypup, and welcome to Chapter 21 of Sorry, Wrong Number by ShizunaRey. As always, the link to the fic will be in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Chapter 21. Twitter is the new 911. Author's notes. Happy New Year, yo! I can't believe this fic started in 2022. Mark was panting as he tried to deliver another kick to the jackal in front of him. The monster lunged with a feral roar, claws outstretched to tear into his flesh. Moon Knight sidestepped the attack with a fluid motion, the jackal's claws scraping against the stone wall behind him. Moon Knight retaliated immediately, spinning and slamming an elbow into the jackal's ribs. The beast staggered, but quickly recovered, swiping a claw at Moon Knight's face. He raised his gauntlet to block it, which slightly ripped fabric at the pole's back. "You'll have to do better than that," Mark spat back in a strained voice. Reaching into his belt, he pulled out a crescent-shaped blade and hurled it with a deadly precision. The blade embedded itself inside the jackal's shoulder, luring out a howl of pain and another attack. This time, Mark ducked low and swept the jackal's leg out from under it. It hit the ground with a thud, but it twisted and lashed out with its claws, catching Moon Knight's arm and tearing more at his sleeve. Blood seeped through the fabric, and Mark let out a painful grunt. The jackal leaped onto him, pinning him to the ground. Saliva dripped from its snout as it snarled inches away from his face. Mark gritted his teeth, using every ounce of his strength to keep the creature's jaws from snapping shut on him. "Conchu!" he shouted. "A little help here!" His prayer went ignored as the moon above seemed to glow as dull as ever, and Mark drove his knee into the jackal's stomach, forcing it off him without the god's help. He quickly rolled to his feet and watched as the wound on his arm slowly stitched itself back together. "Least you could do, you stupid bird." He pulled out another crescent blade from his chest and charged once again. The jackal lunged too, claws swiping, but Mark ducked underneath the attack and drove the crescent blade upward, straight into the oversized dog's chest. A wail echoed through the empty street as the jackal writhed until it stopped. Its body slowly decayed back into sand and distributed by the wind. Only thing left of it were Mark's own weapons. Mark slammed shut the door of his dimly lit safe house in Cairo, the sound echoing through the small space. His breaths were still heavy and his body aching from the fight. Stephen had been right when comparing it with the feeling of getting run over by a truck. There was dried blood on his arm, but his wounds were nothing more than fading memories and an itch. "That's the third one this week," he growled, pacing back and forth. "How many more of these things do I have to take down? Harrow's gone. Gone! This should be over." His reflection in the cracked mirror above the sink stirred, and Stephen's familiar, concerned voice chimed in. "Mark, mate, yelling at the walls isn't going to help, yeah? Maybe we're missing something. What if it's not Harrow, but something else entirely?" Mark scoffed, running a hand through his sweat-matted hair. "Yeah, obviously! These jackals didn't just pop out of nowhere." "Maybe we can't figure it out alone?" Stephen suggested hesitantly, glancing up from the reflection. "You know, there's a certain group of individuals we could—" "Absolutely not!" Mark snapped, cutting him off. "We've been over this. I'm not asking the Avengers for help." "You don't have to go in all caps bestie," Stephen countered, leaning toward him from the mirror. "Just talk to them?" Mark turned away from the mirror, clenching his fists. "You know, they're nothing but trouble. Stark has us on the most wanted list, and let's not even start on that time with Hawkeye and Black Widow." His voice was dripping with frustration as he glared at Stephen. "I don't need their help." "Don't need the help, huh?" Another deep, sarcastic voice interjected as Jake appeared in the mirror, shifting into focus beside Stephen. "Tell me, amigo, how's that strategy working out for you? 'Cause from where I'm standing, you're bleeding all over the floor every other night." Mark exhaled sharply, gripping the edge of the counter. "I can handle this. We've handled worse." Jake shook his head, leaning casually against the frame of the reflection. Yeah, sure, you're doing great, except these jackals just keep coming, and you've got no clue why. You want to keep playing lone wolf, that's fine, but if these things start showing up in places we care about, Layla, maybe, you still want to be stubborn then? The mention of Layla made Mark pause and his jaw tightened. He didn't respond, but Jake smirked nonetheless. Look, Mark, Stephen said softly, trying to diffuse the tension. We're not saying you have to trust them, but what if there's something they know? The jackals attacked them too, you know? Mark was silent, fists loosening as he stared at the cracked mirror. He hated admitting it, but Stephen had a point. He couldn't protect everyone if he was running blind. Still, the thought of turning to the Avengers left a sour taste in his mouth. I don't like this. Whatever you say goes, Hefe. Just don't take too long thinking. These perros don't exactly wait for invitations. Mark scowled at Jake's smirk in the mirror. You sound like you're pushing for it. Jake snorted, shaking his head. Nah, don't get it twisted. I'm just saying your routine isn't cutting it. But calling the Avengers? That's a different kind of stupid. We don't need their interference. Stephen threw up his hands from his side of the mirror. Brilliant! Now we've got two of you being stubborn. Care to explain why, Jake? Or are you just being difficult for the sake of it? Jake leaned closer to the glass, his eyes sharp and unyielding. You think those so-called heroes are going to help us, heroes are going to help us out of the goodness of the hot arts? They'll want something in return, always. We've got enough problems without signing on to their mess. You think they're going to leave us alone after this shit show? Stephen frowned. Well, no, but they're not bad people, are they? I mean, they've saved the world before. They saved the world their way, Jake shot back. They already decided we're a threat. Mark nodded, his jaw tight. I don't trust them either. Last thing we need is Stark breathing down our necks. It's bad enough with Khonshu calling the shots. I don't need more voices telling me what to do. Right, so your grand plan is to just, what, keep taking these jackals down until they stop showing up? Stephen pressed. That's not a plan, Mark. That's exhaustion waiting to happen. I didn't say it's a good plan, Mark muttered, rubbing his temples, but it's the one we've got. Not necessarily, Jake interjected, his tone darkening. There are other ways to get answers. We don't need the Avengers, but maybe we need to start hitting harder. Make whoever's behind this think twice before sending out more of their pets. Stephen blinked. Hitting harder? What does that mean, exactly? Jake smirked. It means not waiting around for the next jackal to show up. We track the source, and we make sure they regret it. Mark sat forward, considering Jake's words. You think you can find a lead? If you let me take the reins, I can, Jake said confidently. Give me a night, and I'll have something. Stephen crossed his arms, looking clearly upset, uneasy. Oh, wonderful. Your reins. What does that mean? More blood? And what happens if it's too big for us to handle alone? You know, the exact thing we're trying to avoid. Jake shrugged. Then we handle it anyway. We've dealt with gods, pequeño. Whatever this is, it's not going to be worse than that. Jake grinned, tipping an imaginary hat at Mark. You won't regret it, Hefe. Stephen muttered under his breath. Oh, we absolutely will. But he didn't push further. Mark groaned, his head falling back against the worn cushion of the couch. Fine. Fine! Stephen, you win. We'll reach out. But not to the Avengers. Stephen's face brightened. Really? You mean it? Because I was starting to think you two were just going to keep bashing heads until the jackal solved the problem for us. Mark rubbed his temples. Spider-Man. Jake raised an eyebrow. En serio? That kid? Mark shrugged, exasperated. He's street level, low profile. He's not tied up in a million world-ending crises, and he's probably dumb enough to answer. Stephen pointed at Mark's reflection. That's the spirit. Just insult the child we're about to ask for help. Mark waved him off and grabbed his phone from the other coffee table. Do you even know how to get in touch with him? Well, Stephen said sheepishly. I noticed his Twitter's quite attractive. He's very good at replying to mentions. If we just send him a polite message. A polite message, Jake deadpan. Yeah, sure, why not? Dear Spider-Man, please help us with rabid sand dogs. Sincerely, Moon Knight. That won't sound unhinged at all. Mark groaned again. It's better than nothing. He unlocked his phone, grimacing as he opened Twitter and made a new account. It wasn't exactly his preferred method of communication, but desperate times and all that. He found Spider-Man's official account, verified, of course, and started typing. At user 15673882651 at friendly Spidor. Need to talk. Jackals. Big problem. DM me. MK. He stared at the message, then added another line. P.S. Not a prank. Stephen peered over from the mirror. Looks fine to me. Straight to the point. Jake let out a sarcastic laugh. Classy. Real professional. Mark hit send before he could overthink it. It's done. Now we wait. And hope he doesn't just block us, Jake muttered. See, was that so hard? Now, let's try not to scare the poor lad off when he actually replies. Maybe apologize for leaving him on a roof? Mark dropped the phone onto the table and leaned back, closing his eyes. If he even replies. Mark sighed and rolled himself up from the couch and went to close the bathroom mirror, effectively shutting it in Jake and Steven's face. He had to sleep this whole fucking mess off. Author's notes. Ugh, I know. This will they won't they work. This will they won't they work together stuff is killing me as well. Hold on, just a little while longer. And that's a wrap on chapter 21. I hope you all enjoyed. I particularly enjoy this chapter, but oh my god, is reading Jake so difficult. Mainly because I cannot do a Hispanic accent while speaking English. I did my absolute best, but I'm pretty sure it sounded British like half the time, so oh well. Anyway, I don't know why. It's something about this fic. I just can't do voices for it, which sucks. Maybe it's because almost everybody is male. I don't have that many male voices. I don't have that much range. Sorry, guys. Anyway, please go show the original author ShizunaRey some love, and please leave me a comment. I love reading your comments. They make me so happy. Please leave me specifically hate comments, and I'll shout you out in the next video. All that being said, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.